Hi, welcome to the Wolves VAVEL instant match reaction. I'm with Edward Hague-Saunders, Wolves fan and Wolves writer. Ed, Wolves have just lost 1-0 at Crystal Palace for the first time since 2013. What is your instant reaction?
Obviously disappointed. Every time you lose, it's a disappointing um, moment. But I think the way that which we lost, the lack of um, intent and the lackluster performance from what we saw, especially in the first half. I thought we were better in the second half, but in the first half, I thought we were very poor. We were very lackluster, and we lacked sort of the impetus going forward, which is disappointing, because we've seen what this squad can do at their best. Like you look back to Chelsea when we beat them 2-1 at home, we saw how good we could be going forward there. Even without Raul, I think it's disappointing that once again we're seeing a lackluster performance going forward.
Do you think it was more of a tactical mistake going to the back three? Obviously, it worked at Chelsea in the week and we got a 0-0 draw. But with it being a different opponent with Crystal Palace and how they're attacking a 4-4-2, do you think the three at the back was the right decision?
I think it was the right decision because I think defensively we looked pretty sound apart from a couple of unforced errors, which is down to the players. That's not down to the system. I thought Dendonker's defending for the goal was shocking. It was basic. It was basic defending, and Patricio should have saved it. But I think apart from the individual errors, I think if you take that Patricio error out and you take the Dendonker error out for the goal, then we're coming away with a clean sheet. And I think we've got this is a really tough period that we're in at the moment. I think we've got to stick to the basics and stick to what we know best, and that's obviously the three at the back. And I think changing to another back four after we got what most Wolves fans would say a positive result against Chelsea, I think that would have been a bit confusing for both the players and for the fans.
Yeah. Let's go back to the start of the game. When you saw the team news, instantly, what was your reaction? Were you happy with it?
Overall, I was happy. Yeah, I think Willian Jose, I wanted to see him start. I think Fabio Silva's a little bit out of his depth. He's got the talent, obviously, but just the experience that Willian Jose showed today was it was it was almost like we had Raul back. It wasn't obviously the same or anywhere near as good as we were with Raul, but it was sort of like we had a focal point up top again, and we had someone to aim for, and he was controlling it with his chest. He was backing into centre backs, and I think when I saw Willian Jose start, and I was like, okay, that's a bit different. That's a bit positive, and we can look forward to that. So I was happy with that, and overall I was happy. I know Sace was out. I would have probably preferred Sace over Kilman, but Sace was obviously out. So I think from the players that we did have, other thing, I don't know. I don't see the reasoning behind leaving Neves out. I think Neves has been our best player for the last month, 2 months, and I don't think it was wise to leave Neves out. I think Neves could have. I think the game in general was crying out for a box-to-box midfielder, someone that could win us the ball back, travel or pass it, and turn defence into attack. And I don't think we had that, and I think we were missing that. And I think Neves would have offered a lot more than Moutinho did. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think overall I was happy with the team in parts, but I think there was a few minor decisions that I was a bit confused about.
Yeah. I think the leaving Neves out could have something to do with the fact that they got obviously Arsenal on Tuesday and then
Mm.
Leicester on Sunday. So Neves is probably more suited for the Arsenal game. But then you'd think Ruben Neves, he's got a bit more energy than Joao Moutinho, so that could have fitted better for today. We'll go on to Joao Moutinho. Obviously, he's received a bit of stick for his performances recently. Obviously, permanent class always from him, but
Yeah,
recently he's not really been up there compared to Dendoncker and Neves. What are your thoughts on his recent performances?
I think from what we've seen from Moutinho since he came in, what was it, 2 years ago? I think we've seen constant class, as he said. Um, and I think he has dropped off a little bit. And I don't know if that's due to age or that's due to fatigue or that's due to the team not doing as well in general. And therefore that impacts his overall confidence. I think he's just not just with Moutinho. I think it's the whole team. We seem to be seeing a lot more individual unforced errors. I mean, Speaking of Moutinho, today there was a pass, a 5-yard pass to Semedo on the wing, and he passed it straight out of play. Like that's not the Wolves, and that's not the Moutinho that we are used to seeing. And I think that is a lot of unforced errors coming from probably due to confidence, might be something else. But I think in general, there's a lot of unforced errors. And I think Moutinho is probably up there with the most unforced errors in the team. And it's a huge contrast to what we used to see with Moutinho. And I think that is probably one of the main reasons why we are not doing as well. I mean, everyone talks about Raul being out, and yes, he's so important to us. But if you look at what we've been since we've come into the Premier League, it's always been hard to break down and then quick counter attacks. And the quick counter attacks came from Moutinho, Neves, Jota, and Moutinho is not really on it, and therefore the team isn't really on it, and we struggle to counter quickly and we struggle to control games.
Yeah. I think if you look at Wolves as a collective last season, when they counter-attack it, like you said, came through Neves, Jota. I think Jimenez really helped with that as well, with his hold-up play. From looking at the game today and looking at the past few games, especially the game against Everton and West Brom, it seems that Wolves are just being completely out fought in midfield, especially with this three at the back with two midfielders. I think having just the two, it delays the counter-attack. And I think it's starting to come to clear now that Wolves are definitely missing Jota a lot more than people
definitely. I think. Oh, go on, yeah.
One thing that you text me just as the second half started, which I didn't see until I went on Twitter, that at half time, with only 3 shots in the game, all for Crystal Palace, Wolves' expected goals were 0.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a good start, is it? And then obviously I think they've only had about three shots on target. Yeah, well, they had 4 shots on target, so they had 2 more than Palace did in the game. And obviously the Palace have scored from it. So it's not looking good up front, is it?
No, I think with the expected goals being 0, I think that shows how the lack of intent almost. I think we're obviously in a tough spell and we're winning, 8, 9. And I think the message from the manager and that's been discussed on training probably is don't lose the game. I think that's the first thought. Don't lose the game, and then we'll try and win the game. And I think we always start slow. That's been the thing under Nuno. We've always started slow. But when we used to start slow, we never used to concede early. And now we're starting slow and conceding early. And I think the loss of Jota is proving huge. I don't think just because of his goals, I think just because of the way that he plays, he would come back, tackle, and then drive forward. And we've seen a bit of that with Neto and Podence, but we've not seen it to the extent that Jota did it. Jota literally would win the ball or get the ball on our box, and then he'd get us up to the other end of the pitch in 10 seconds, which I think we're missing. But yeah, as you said, the expected goal's been 0 after the first half. I don't think I've ever seen that. That's woeful. That just shows that we might be crying out for a striker, but I think we're also crying out for someone that can create the chances, because a striker can only do so much. Like, he can only put the ball in the back of the net, and we need someone to create the chances, whether that's the wide man, whether that's the fullbacks. I think I think there's too much of a divide between attack and defence. I think there's no middleman to create the chances, and I think that's what we're missing, really.
Yeah, we're missing someone like Wilfried Zaha, someone who can play out wide but also come in and create something. I know he wasn't the most creative today, but we know what he can do.
Definitely, yeah.
Should we get on to the ratings of our 3 subjects? So we'll start with the defence. Do you want to do it as the back 3, or do you want to do it with the back 3 and the wing backs?
Probably the back 3, because I think, to be fair, I thought the wing backs were quite good today, so I don't think tarnishing them with a defensive rating would be quite fair.
So the defence of back 3, Kilman, Willy Bolly and Connor Cody.
I thought for the most part they were all right. I think for some reason we saw a Connor Cody today that was misplacing almost every pass. He tried to hit a long diagonal, which again is another thing that we've not seemed to be doing this season at all, which we did in previous seasons. But he tried to hit a long diagonal pass, and numerous times he misplaced it completely. And I think, although we were quite solid, and Palace didn't really break us down. There were still gaps appearing, and I think we saw for the goal, Patricio should have saved it. And if we're being honest, if we're being completely honest, he's a world-class keeper, should be saving that. But I think there was a little bit too many gaps. So I think probably I'd give it a 5, 6. I don't think you can go much higher than that when we don't win the game.
Yeah.
And we concede.
And then moving further up the pitch to the midfield, so Moutinho, Dendoncker, Kai, Jano Hoover, and Nelson Semedo.
As I said, I thought the wing backs were quite good today. I'm not gonna lie. I've had my doubts about Semedo, and I've given him a lot of stick online, especially at the first couple of games. But I think he is really developing. He's really growing into English football, which is a huge positive amongst all of this. And I thought he and Kajana Hoover were good today. You know, they put in good crosses into the box, which just didn't have an end man on them. I think in the first half we had about 3 or 4 crosses into a really good area, which there was no one on the end of, but that came from the fullback. So I thought they were good. And as you said, I think Dendoncker wasn't on it today. He was completely a bystander. And I think when Dendoncker doesn't play well, we don't play well as a collective. And I think that with Moutinho and the unforced errors in that midfield, I think that really let us down today. So I've probably taken it all into account. I'll probably give it a 5, but I think I'd give the wing backs a 6 and then the 2 centre midfielders a 4. So it sort of equals out.
Making up your own rules.
Yeah, man.
Going up front, the front three, I think this was probably where we were probably the worst today. Neto, Willian Jose, and Daniel Podence.
I think I do agree with you. We were poor up front today, but it did seem at times to flow a lot better than when Fabio Silva was in the side. And I mentioned earlier about Willian Jose's experience and taking up positions that maybe Fabio Silva didn't take up. So I thought it did flow at times today a much better. But again, we were still lackluster. We still didn't have the men in the box that we needed to. You know, Willian Jose as a number 9 playing as a striker should be in the box scoring goals, shouldn't be dropping deep to receive the ball. And I think Neto did try. Again, he always tries his little runs and his little step overs to try and break teams down, which usually he has quite a lot of success with. And I think he did have success today, but just couldn't really provide the end ball. And I think Podence again sort of went missing. I think he never really got into the game. I don't know if it's because just coming back from injury or not, but he was sort of slow. He attempted a few dribbles and beat a few men, but apart from that, we didn't really create anything. And I think this is another of our main problems. Yes, we need a striker to put the ball in the net, but we need people to create chances. And it's all well and good, like Traore when he came on, getting down the line. He created the most chances. He was probably on the pitch for 20, 25 minutes. But I think, yeah, up front, as you say, we were poor. So I'm going to give it a 5. But I think there are signs there. And I think Willian Jose, as he becomes more familiar with the club and the system, I think he will get better. And we will get better. That's the thing. I think we will get better. It's just a tough time for us at the moment.
And finally, Nuno, his tactics and his subs. I'd like you said Traore and Silva, they're the ones that you expect him to make when we're 1-0 down. So he's subs, can't really say, obviously they didn't make much impact, but like you said, Traore made the most chances. I think
Traore was a good sub. I think in the past we've seen him do like for like replacements. Sort of, if we're going to bring Traore on, we'll take a winger off. Whereas today we saw him take Herfer off for Traore and Traore play at wing back, which gave us more attacking options, which I think is a good thing. But yeah, I don't know, was the timing quite right of the subs? Would Traore have done better maybe starting the game or being on for 40 minutes? I don't know. But I think overall, Nuno did all right. I think the change of Vitinha to bring Vitinha on was probably what we needed, but I don't think Vitinha is good. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's at that level that we need to really be in that number 10 role, because I think that's where Vitinha needs to play, in that number 10 role. But it's hard, you know, with Nuno likes a small squad, and I think at the minute we're being punished for liking a small squad, because I don't think we have the quality that we need to really be challenging for. If you look at it, we want to be top six. We want to be top six, and I don't think we have the quality in that squad. Definitely not off the bench to be challenging for that.
So out of 10?
Out of 10, I don't think he did much wrong. I wouldn't say, but maybe could have been classed as a bit reactive with his decisions. So I'd give him a 5.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah.
Obviously, we're recording the podcast tomorrow with the Palace editor of VAVEL, Edmund, who's been at the game today. So we won't go into much of what went wrong today, in particular, individuals, etc. But Arsenal on Tuesday, again, we'll probably talk more about that tomorrow. But right now, they're playing United right now, 8 minutes in 0-0.
Yeah.
Do you think Wolves can get anything out of that game?
I mean, Arsenal's a team that since we've been back in the Premier League, we've done really well against. I've got a mate who's an Arsenal fan, and he calls us their bogey team. So I think if we can turn up and if we can make sure we start well and start quickly from the off, I think we will get a point. I think we'll need something special at the moment to come away with 3 points, because we just don't look like seeing a game out at the minute. You know, even if we take the lead, I'm still not confident that we'll see a game out, because I know we've got those unforced errors in us. And I think looking forward to Arsenal, they're doing quite well at the minute, and I do think it'll be hard. I do think if I'm going to give an early prediction, I'd say probably a draw. But that's if we really turn up, and we haven't really turned up recently. So
yeah. And then Leicester on Sunday. Obviously, that's a week away. A lot can happen in a week. We could bring someone in. I doubt it. From Nuno's press conference, it doesn't seem like he's going to want to bring anyone in. But
yeah,
Leicester, who are up there, obviously. What are your thoughts on them?
Leicester are an amazing side. I think we'll struggle against them. You know, they've got a lot of quality going forward. And then again, they're very hard to break down at the back. So I think we'll struggle against them. I think Wolves' performances at the minute rely very heavily on Willian Jose and whether he can fill that role that Raul did for us. And I think that, as I said, there were signs today. And I think if he can fit in and learn the system and learn the players around him, I think we can turn it around, and we can turn it around quickly. But I think it's just whether he can give us what we need. But as for Leicester, I can see that being probably a 3-0 defeat, something like that. I don't think we're on it at the minute, and I think they are.
Defeat at home,
mate. The way we've been defending recently, I think to concede 3 against West Brom. I know it's in a derby, but to concede 3 against West Brom is awful. And yeah, we looked decent against Chelsea, but we looked decent defensively against Chelsea because we didn't offer anything going forward. And I think that might be a problem. So yeah, maybe 3-0 is a bit bold, but I don't know. I just can't see us, unless we get a positive result against Arsenal, then I can see us getting a positive result against Leicester. But if we lose to Arsenal, I can see us getting beaten and heavily beaten by Leicester.
Yeah, well, we'll look into them 2 games tomorrow. Final one.
Mm-hmm.
A defeat now. Wolves are now 9 points off Fulham in 18th, which is not a lot of points, but that would be 3 wins, and Fulham have only had 2 all season. In your opinion, are Wolves in a relegation battle?
It's a tough one, because I think at the minute, as we speak, I don't think we're in a relegation battle. But I think if you look, we've got Arsenal and Leicester. If we lose those 2 games, we are in a relegation battle. So I think it's of paramount importance that we get something from the next 2 games. Will that happen? I'm not sure, but I think at the minute we're not at the minute we're not in a relegation battle, because I think there's a lot of teams that are worse than us, and I do think our quality will shine through at the end. And I'm not worried about going down at the minute, but if we lose to Arsenal and lose to Leicester and don't have that confidence, I think we could get sucked into one. I think we are on the edge of being sucked into one.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Yeah, man.